Debt is a word we hear all the time. National debt, government borrowing, trillions owed. But very few people ever stop to ask a simple question. If nearly every country in the world is drowning in debt, then who is all this money actually owed to? The story of modern debt is when governments need money, they issue bonds, promises to pay a certain amount in the future, plus interest. Investors buy these bonds because they're considered safe, predictable, and backed by the full authority of a nation. For years, this arrangement worked smoothly. In fact, borrowing became so cheap that many countries treated it almost like free money. Interest rates were low. Investors were hungry for safe assets, and governments leaned heavily on debt to fund budgets, build infrastructure, and rescue their economies during crises. But this long era of easy borrowing created a world that became dependent on debt. It wasn't just one country or region. The habit spread everywhere. Whenever problems arose, recessions, pandemics, financial crashes, the solution was almost always the same: borrow more. Debt piled on top of debt year after year until the world's total debt reached levels never seen before in human history. And that brings us back to the big question. If practically every country owes money, then who holds all this debt? The answer is not one country, but one of them holds the most. It is the United States of America. Dollar is the world's currency of trade, of cross-border debt. The US dollar plays a unique role in the global economy. It isn't just Americans' currency, it's the backbone of international trade and global finance. When countries buy oil, food, technology, or raw materials from each other, the transaction is usually priced in dollars, not in their own currencies. This gives the dollar an enormous amount of global demand. And that demand extends to debt as well. People in other countries, big investors, central banks, they need to hold dollars. That means they need to buy US government debt. It's the benchmark safe asset for the whole world that has enabled the US government to be more free spending than most others. While the US is one of the world's biggest holders of global debt, but it's also heavily indebted itself, which is $38 trillion, more than the country's entire GDP. But it is not the highest. Japan is, with $9 trillion in debt. The debt to GDP ratio shows how much a country owes compared to how much it earns. Japan's ratio is 235%, meaning its government owes more than twice what its economy produces in a year. The government debt isn't always as bad as it sounds. When a country needs to build infrastructure, they borrow and make the economy grow and repay the debt easier with interest. As long as interest rates stay low and economies keep growing, the system works smoothly. But when interest rates begin to rise, the math changes suddenly. The governments still need debt to fund healthcare, education, defense. So when interest payments rise, governments face a painful choice: raise taxes, cut services, or borrow even more. This is when debt turns from a tool into a trap. Some nations reach a point where they are borrowing money simply to pay the interest on their previous loans. A government that spends billions on interest payments has less room to invest in schools, infrastructure, or technological innovation. And when investors worry that a government might struggle to repay its debt, the entire economy can feel the shockwaves. Businesses may face higher borrowing costs, inflation can rise, and national currencies can become unstable. So where does this leave us today? We live in a world built on debt, connected through thousands of financial threads, stretching between governments, banks, institutions, and individuals. As interest rates rise and global uncertainty grows, the pressure on this system increases. Some countries will navigate it successfully, others may struggle. But one thing is certain: debt affects all of us, directly or indirectly. Understanding who owes what and to whom isn't just a question for economists, it's a window into how the modern world really works. Yet, it's important to understand that debt itself isn't inherently bad. Borrowing can fuel progress. It can help nations recover from disasters, invest in long-term growth, and support citizens during difficult times. Here's the truth. In today's world, debt is everywhere, and there may not be an easy way to escape it. Countries rely on borrowing to keep their economies moving, to build things, and to survive tough times. But the more the world depends on debt, the more fragile everything becomes. If interest rates rise or economies slow down, that debt can quickly turn into a major problem. So every society faces an important question: how much debt is safe? And what happens if we reach a point where the debt becomes too heavy to manage? Eventually, the debt never disappears. It just waits, and it must be paid sooner or later.